Philip Washington Jr. is a registered investment advisor. Information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, investments, or investment strategies. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Be sure to first consult with a qualified financial advisor and/or tax professional before implementing any strategy discussed herein. Past performance is not indicative of future performance. And now, here's Philip.
What's going on, Sean?
What's going on, Philip? How you doing today, man?
I'm good, man. How about you?
I'm doing great on this lovely M&A Monday. You know, it's a good 85 degrees outside. You know, plan on getting outside a little later, but it's great to start this afternoon off with you, man, and your listeners.
No, definitely, man. And you know, we live on 3 platforms now: on YouTube, on Facebook, and LinkedIn. I connected all 3 of them.
Phenomenal.
So, yes, sir. But yeah, man, I'm excited about the topic today because I'm always looking for ways to bring extra value outside of the traditional perspective, right? And so we know the crowd that listens to M&A are investing in companies, investing in real estate. They're looking for an edge. I feel like, or I hope. And so one of the most, I was reading through. My narrow window of periodicals I read through or listen to on my podcast about different things coming up, and I was like, oh man, they got the largest Bitcoin mining operation being built in the U.S. right in our backyard in Corsicana. So I was like, we definitely got to talk about like that opportunity, as a whole.
Yeah, man, 100%. You know, to your point, deal makers are deal makers, and so, if you're looking at acquiring, a small, unsexy company, or you're looking at the future of things, it's the right time to do that, especially with the economy being where it is, and new opportunities being what we need to be looking at, to be ready for the next wave of economic success. I mean, being on top of that is great. And I think a lot of folks, kind of got caught up in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency early success, and then it fell back a bit. But a lot of folks don't realize, what's Bitcoin up to now? What's the number right now?
Today it's at like 55,000.
55. Last I heard it was 50, right? And that was like a week ago. So it ain't going anywhere. And to your point, these mining operations are massive, and they require a lot of infrastructure, and to some extent they create jobs, and a lot of the jobs they create are white collar jobs, which then leads to further development in those areas. So, just being aware of what's going on in our state is really important. Also, I had mentioned this to you before, but I recently sat in in a small meeting where the governor was talking about kind of his take on this stuff, and he mentioned, and this was, I say recently, it was maybe 9 months ago or so now, but he talked extensively about Bitcoin mining and how even the governor, our super conservative, governor of Texas considers, Bitcoin mining to be a huge part of Texas's future. So not surprised at all to see, that we've got the biggest development. Everything's bigger in Texas. So makes sense. Yeah.
And we'll deep dive into like development piece, but I'll give a short foundation.
Yes, sir.
Right. The reason why Bitcoin mining is attractive to like communities are, if you're developing, and this is not going to be new to developers who are listening, but this is for the general audience. When you're developing a new area where there hasn't been anything, like energy is a big cost, right? I mean, that's a huge cost because you got to have people move there or whatever, but you're gonna need to build some stuff, and the limit of your building is going to be like how many people are going to actually buy the energy necessary to build what you need to build around it. Well, Bitcoin miners literally turn energy into money.
Right.
And so this is an example of they're investing a little over $300 million, right, into Corsicana. That's
right.
$30 million, right, into a burgeoning city, right? And now that's going to invite other people in, for all the other non, fancy, sexy businesses that you need to build when you put that kind of infrastructure in. And so that's huge.
Absolutely. I agree completely. I mean, for folks that aren't that, up to date on how Bitcoin mining works, I think you said it well. it's basically making money from energy, right? It's the same as a data server kind of a setup where, you have to run these computers 24 hours a day to be able to mine Bitcoin. And so there's a constant need for power to make that happen. And you also need space. And so, Texas got the space. We have the space here, but that infrastructure in terms of an electrical grid that's set up here or in that area, to make sense for that is something new. And again, as you said, when that type of infrastructure comes in place, it's only a matter of time before other companies come along, other industries, retail, et cetera, that want to be a part of that and participate in. Now that the grid is ready for them, okay, well, now we can do this, this, and this, right? So for folks looking to, pick up companies, sell companies, or, just in the space of looking at what new company to set up, going to a place where there's a brand new infrastructure grid and all the jobs that will be created in order to simply even create that type of infrastructure, all the money that's going to be made by local people there is going to increase demand for any number of services and products in that area. So it just makes a lot of sense to talk about. So
let me ask a question on the deal front. So because this is frontier investing in business and real estate. So from a legal or deal making standpoint, if I imagine, right, deal making in an established area, right, you're asking for one thing, but when you're deal making in a new area where you're bringing a lot of value, like what are some of the considerations that you think about if you're investing in basically like a new town? Not that Corsicana's not a new town, but right. we're in the early phase of building a Waco.
Right. I think the first thing you want to look for, what people typically look for is they start with, what's there currently, right? So you would want to look at the demographics of Corsicana and the surrounding communities and what their needs might be in those areas. So, like where's the closest grocery store is really important. And what brand of grocery store is it? What does the housing market look like? What are house prices look like? What's the median income in that area? Those types of things dictate the types of businesses that should go to that area, right? So, if you're, say, a franchisee or something, and you're a franchisee of, Pizza Hut or something like that, right? Then, that's an appropriate place to put something like that. Another great one, it's just on my mind right now is Crunch Fitness, the biggest, up and coming, fitness company right now. They're always looking for large swaths of land, and places to build and things like that. Point saying there, that's the kind of thing that you might want to have in a Corsicana. So you look at the people and you think about the needs based on where they are, right? You're not going to put an Equinox, for folks that don't know what that is, super high end, fancy gym, all the business people come together to network and not even work out, but, a Crunch Fitness type thing, where you're getting super high level of service and super high quality equipment, but at an affordable price for everyday folks, that's something that would make sense in a place like that. So that's where you start. And then it's thinking forward, right? Like how many jobs is this going to create? And when it's creating jobs, how many more people are going to have to move there permanently? And then for the people who aren't moving there permanently, how long will they be there? And what kind of businesses can kind of fit around that? So, it really all comes down to, any business comes down to who's the client, who's the customer. So you got to understand that customer base in and around Corsicana to understand what the best types of investments will be in that area.
And my great uncle, was in affordable housing development. He did a lot like in like League City, Texas City.
Okay. Yeah.
Those areas. And so he would talk to me when I was in college, because I was a finance major, about the fact that all these towns have, like, you can go to the city and you can say, hey, what are your 10-year plans for for development, and they'll like give it to you. So you want to talk more about that? 'Cause I feel like that would be good.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Every city has that, right? So, every city's got a development and urban planning department of some kind. It may be called economic development, maybe urban planning. There's different names for it. But, most cities have some sort of a plan in place for how they would like to grow, right? And a lot of times if you have good relationships with the cities, and you go and talk to the people there, they'll share those plans with you. And you kind of want to conform what you're going to do to those plans. Now, why is that important? I mean, from the city's perspective, right? Anytime you come into a city and do a new business, there's an exchange happening there. Just like what you're describing with the Bitcoin mining operation, they're going to come in and they're not just asking for $300 million worth of infrastructure, right? They're offering something in exchange. They're offering a massively increased tax base for Corsicana, right? So yeah, you're going to build this $300 million deal, but I'm going to be throwing you 20 million a year in taxes or whatever the number is, right? There's other incentives that come in place so that the city benefits from it ultimately, right? So an important thing to consider when you're going into any town is not just, what you can get from the town, but what you can do for that town, right? And further, a lot of times those dollars that are allocated towards bringing in that type of investment, and this sounds like it's a state level thing, but if you're talking on the city level or
well, I think this is when Riot Platforms is investing 300 million.
They're investing 300 million, right? So either way, the city then and the state are going to have to invest quite a bit to actually make that come to fruition, right? You know what I mean? So in exchange for that 300 million, they're going to expect quite a lot, from the city. Right. So it kind of, either whether whoever's making the first level of investment, it goes both ways is the point, right?
Yeah.
So, no understanding what a city is trying to do is critical to that. So I assume that the city of Corsicana is thinking, wow, okay, they're coming in and investing this 300 million. That's phenomenal. That's going to build something. But what can we do around that? So if I'm the urban planning people, the city planners in Corsicana, I'm already cooking up what can be developed around that space, right? And if you're coming in to develop, whether that's setting up a new business that has brick and mortar aspect or just a pure real estate play, then what you need to know is what their plans are, because there will be additional dollars typically set aside to assist in those types of developments. And if not dollars, tax incentives, right? That can come into play. But largely those are decided on by vote, right? So it's what that community wants through their representatives is what has to be adhered to in order to get access, to those types of funds, right? So you got the big Bitcoin mining company, they put in a big chunk of money and kind of got things rolling, right? But from here, other folks that come in are going to want to know, what does the city want to do and how do I best align myself with that? For example, I've got clients who, go in a certain city, they're looking to develop it out. There's a lot of that in Texas because we have so much land, and they may have an idea. I want to do a mixed use development on this hard corner that has, multifamily on top and has, retail shops at the bottom. But if the city's plan says, no, we just want multifamily in that area, a lot of times the city's plan, whether it makes sense or not, economically makes sense for the city or not, irrelevant, to what the city has in mind already, because they've already put together their best minds and they've already done their representative sort of sampling to understand what the city wants. And that's what they're going to want to have in place. So it does require a close relationship with the local government to do any significant development in a new city.
No, that's good to know. That's good to know. What any other thing that you think an investor should know if they're thinking about, all right, I want to go get a piece of this action, right? So I got to build a relationship with the city, find out what their plans are. Think about what makes sense around those plans and what's coming. Any other major considerations? Those were all good, by the way.
Yeah, no, I think from there it kind of gets down to brass tacks and nuts and bolts, right? Again, anytime you're coming in for an idea for what you want to do in a new place that's being developed out, you got to have those local relationships from a government perspective, but also you want to talk to brokers in that area. You want to understand what the highest and best use of any given piece of land is. And, the large brokerages in particular have entire R&D departments that focus on that kind of thing, just to understand what would be the most helpful thing to have in this kind of area. You can get that information via relationships, depending on if you got the right level of relationships, with folks in large brokerages, or you can pay for it, and a lot of times it is paid for and considered a part of pre-development anytime you're going into a new area. But again, from there, I think once you have sort of the buy-in and relationships, which is a purely soft skills related thing, it has nothing to do with objective numbers. It's really about who you know, how well you know them, whether they trust you or not. Once you have those types of relationships in place, then it's getting down to the brass tacks. And that's when, again, working with brokers that understand the area, understand what the highest and best use is there, can be helpful. So you have to be nimble, in those scenarios. You kind of want to go in with some ideas, but ideas plural, and with an eye towards making adjustments based on where the city ultimately lands in terms of what they want. Because again, you're always asking them for something too, right? It's like a lot of times, even what you'll find is their city-owned land, right? Land that for reasons of people not paying taxes for a long period of time. What is that? What happens to that land? It goes back to the county or back to the city. Whoever owned it. Usually it's the county. But point being, understanding that they may have 60 acres sitting somewhere that they don't know what to do with, and you may be able to get that land for nothing, as long as you build X, Y, Z in ABC way, right? Yeah. So again, I think it's going at it with some dry powder and an open mind is probably the best way to approach something like that. If you're going into a place that's already developed and you're doing infill development, or you're thinking about, okay, there's no subway within a 18-mile radius of here, like those kind of things make sense on their own because you have a lot of other data to work with. But again, if you're thinking in terms of frontier level investing, then it's a frontier. It is the Wild West. We don't know yet, right? So you go in and approach with a sense of collaboration and an open mind, having a few ideas that you think make sense, but also being open to the input and collaboration with local government in that decision making. And frankly, if you're going to Corsicana, you definitely want to make relationships if you can with the Bitcoin mining company. What's the name of the company again?
Riot Platforms.
Riot Platforms, right? Yeah, you might want a friend or two at Riot, because they're going to have a lot of other information. This deal did not happen overnight. You don't decide to spend $300 million in a place like Corsicana without having done a couple of years of due diligence first and having a lot of those relationships in place. So that can be another great thing, is just to have friends there that can help you figure out, okay, what's the next play? How far away does the next residential development need to be? How long are the jobs going to be here? What kind of roads and infrastructure are being built out to it that will then facilitate retail and multifamily and other residential properties? Office is office right now, but so I'm not really looking at that. But you should also think about other product types. The hottest in real estate right now has got to be real estate / M&A has got to be self-storage, right? So what self-storage opportunities might there be in the area? RV parks. Are the workers that coming in, are they permanent, or are they moving in RVs? Those kinds of things, right? So again, openness, asking lots of questions, make that due diligence period as long as possible so that you can make the best possible case for why you should be the next to develop around, this $300 million development.
No, that's good. That's good. And so I'm hearing too, you got to be long-term. Just not, if you're going to invest in this area, it's not a quick flip. This is a decade or longer type thing that you want, because you're going to spend a few years researching, then you got to put it in place, and then you got to, let the seeds flourish. Full disclosure too, like one of the big reasons I heard about this deal is I own Riot Platform stock. It's a phenomenal, it's one of my favorites. So putting that full disclosure out there.
All right. And also a pro tip to your listeners, right? You might want to look into, this is not investment advice. I think we'll say that at the end as well. But, it's a good endorsement for it that you invest. And obviously there's something to be said for it if they're, investing here in Texas at that level. So congratulations to Corsicana, man. That's amazing. I'm
huge, man. Yeah. No, cool, man. Well, let everybody know how they can reach you if they want to get more information or leverage your expertise around everything M&A.
100%. You can always reach out to us directly at 972-782-2940. You can also reach me directly via email, Sean@tate-legal.com. Obviously, we perform a lot of day-to-day legal work in the deal-making space, M&A, real estate, corporate. But I'm also, absolutely a business advisor and consultant when it comes to issues like this. So, always happy to meet new folks and find opportunities to help people move their businesses forward.
All right. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you so much, man. Appreciate the time, Philip.
Philip Washington Jr. is a registered investment advisor. Information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, investments, or investment strategies. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Be sure to first consult with a qualified financial advisor and/or tax professional before implementing any strategy discussed herein. Past performance is not indicative of future performance.